Hey everyone, it's been a while, but welcome back to Pushing Colored Dirt. As per the feedback I got on Instagram, this is going to be a two-parter. For the foreseeable future, I will be focusing primarily on painting technique, with a bit of narrative woven into the fabric, and occasionally pausing to create another visual essay. This week we'll be tackling monochromatic painting using only black and white, while using limited values to create a mood. In this video, part 1, I will be mixing my values and painting 4 value studies. In part 2, I will be taking the best of those 4 and combining it to make a slightly larger, more complete value painting. For anyone watching who doesn't know what value is, let me explain that first. Value is how we measure lightness or darkness in a work of art. We measure value on a scale from 0 being black and 10 being white. If you do a quick search online, you'll find that there are various scales. Some of them measure it from 1 to 10, others 1 to 9. And again, there are others that measure it from white to black instead of what I'm using, black to white. At the end of the day, I don't believe any of that really matters, so long as you understand and grasp the importance of the values. To that end, I will make a video where I discuss value in greater detail in the future. But for brevity's sake right now, I will continue. Right now, I'm mixing 4 values, specifically values 6, 7, 8, and 9. What that essentially means is that value 6 is my darkest dark, and 9 is my lightest light. Now, 9 is pretty light, so getting my lighter values to look right won't be that much of an issue. However, value 6 is also pretty light. That's where the challenge comes in. I can mix these 4 in any way I choose, but I can't go further in either direction. You may notice later in the video that I've mixed a darker value that sits on the bottom of my palette, or in the orientation of the video, it'll be towards the left. That was in the event that I wanted to push something a little bit darker, but ultimately I ended up not needing it. Now at this point, some of you may be thinking, Julian, this is all well and good, but how on earth does this actually help me paint in color? Valid question, YouTube family, valid question. We'll talk more about that in a later video, but to quote my painting teacher from undergrad, it doesn't matter what color you mix, so long as it matches the correct value. So I'm mixing these 4 values because I have an idea in my mind. The idea isn't fully fleshed out yet, and I'll be completely transparent with you. As of this recording, I still haven't quite figured out what the idea is. I just know I want it to be lighter. This can mean many things. Because it is lighter, automatically it can be assumed that maybe it's a lighthearted image, potentially on a sunny day, or something of that nature. But that is not the mood that I'm going for. Now that I've finished mixing my paints, let's pause the video real quick and look at the photo reference. Courtesy of Laurie of Dear Macy Vintage. I'll have a link in the description to her Etsy store, and I highly recommend a visit if you're into vintage photography. This is a fairly somber image. It appears to be a funeral. It also has a pretty high contrast, with some stark white and blacks. But I'm taking these values and compressing them so they aren't as contrasted. But I still want to keep a sense of that somber mood somehow. And so, I want to ask you, my viewers, what do you think is happening in the photo? And what do you think my vision might be? As I begin to paint the studies, why do you think I'm changing the values? I'll answer that question in the next video, but I really want to hear what your thoughts are. Art is a dialogue. I don't want to tell you what I'm thinking straight away, because that robs you of the opportunity to create your own narratives. But I will say this much. What really piqued my interest was her stark white dress, contrasted by all of the dark on either side. Why does it appear as if they're looking at her? What is she staring off into? What's in her hand? I don't know. These are just my thoughts. Back to painting. Now, full disclosure, guys. I had actually recorded the drawing and the transferring process to include in this video, but I accidentally deleted them. I'm sorry. I'm undoubtedly the worst. So, let me quickly explain what I did. I had done a number of sketches, posted them to my Instagram story to allow my followers to help me decide which one they'd rather see painted. That winning sketch was then traced and transferred using transfer paper on the other side of my sketchbook. I then used 2 coats of Gamblin PVA size to seal the drawings before finally taking some acrylic raw sienna to create that warm base tone. So why do I do studies? Why does anyone do studies? The idea behind doing studies is to allow oneself room to play and explore different combinations. In my case, I'm allowing myself to explore various combinations of using those four values that I pre-mixed. I know I want to keep it high key, which basically just means it's lighter in tone, and have a compressed value range. So the things going through my mind are, what do I want to prioritize? Where's my focal point? Where will the brightest lights be? How do I make such a light value appear dark? What kind of interesting shapes can I create by compressing these values in such a way that figures, objects, and other things appear to melt together? I don't make studies all the time. Sometimes, actually most of the time, I dive right into a painting and allow the process to unravel over time. I'll begin a painting with one thing in mind, and by the time I'm done, it has gone through various changes. This is often a recipe for disaster, and I firmly think it's why I have so many unfinished paintings in my studio. I'm pretty sure there's lots of artists watching this who can relate, so holla back, yo. Essentially, I treat each painting as a study, and once I gain something from it, I stop. Now, here's the thing. Every single successful painting I have ever created has been planned out to a certain degree. It's usually planned for a day or two, but having even a small roadmap helps a lot more than blindly entering a forest with many different unmarked trails. Where do I go? I don't, what colors do I use? What values do I use? Do I want to prioritize this? Do I want to change that? Do I want to simplify a pattern or edit out a figure? Do I want to make a person's face stand out more? Do I want this to be warmer or cooler, etc., etc.? These are all things that artists think about. And if I'm working on a larger piece, and I'm thinking about all of this while I go without having, again, just a slight roadmap, then what happens oftentimes is I abandon it. This is me personally. I'm not sure how every other artist is. We are all different, but I know that I certainly tend to abandon paintings because I don't know where to go anymore. The artist Vincent Desiderio stresses the importance of creating numerous studies: value studies, color studies, material studies, idea studies, etc., etc. I'll post some links to some of his talks on here. By making these four little studies, I am solving a few problems beforehand and finding solutions that I can combine for a bigger painting. All this is done small scale with minimal effort or detail and minimal loss of materials. Once I dive into that larger painting, I will be met by a whole new set of problems that require entirely different solutions. But at the very least, I will have figured out the main value structure of the whole image, freeing me up to focus on details and other pictorial elements. These four studies also serve another purpose: education. This is a simple exercise that can be done at any stage in your development as an artist. Value studies are useful in paint, pencil, digital, whatever medium you're using. In my last video's Conversation with Rembrandt, I talked about not becoming trapped by the reference, of interpreting the reference instead of copying it. I won't mince words here. I don't think copying is all that impressive, as time-consuming as it can be. All that tells me is that you have a lot of patience. So this kind of limited value study is one way to interpret the reference, to make it your own. You could do the same exercise using values 2 through 5 or 4 through 7. It doesn't really matter. Take a photo reference or even a painting that you like and re-envision it with different values. If it is a high-key painting, again, as mentioned before, that means that it's a lighter value painting. Remake it into low-key, which means the opposite. It's going to be slightly darker. If you took a really cool photo, instead of matching the values, try changing the value key. Oftentimes, photography has a much fuller range of values because cameras don't really distinguish between the nuances of the value range. As artists, we have that choice. We have that power to say, I'm going to paint everything using only 5 values, or I'm going to use only 3 values, whatever it might be. So take a photo and make it your own. Change those values. Don't simply copy the values. So there you have it, guys. My main concern as I'm painting these isn't matching values to what I see, but creating interesting value patterns by using shape design. The next video will be a legitimate tutorial with step-by-step process on how to take the information from these studies and synthesize it to create the final image. So as you're finishing this video, I want you to think about what you want me to explain. What questions might you have for me if I was painting this as a demo in a classroom? Let me know your thoughts of this video. Is it too long? Do you want to see them longer, maybe more detailed videos? I'm still finding my footing with content creation for YouTube, so the more feedback I get, the better these videos will become. And I want to make something that you can enjoy and that you can benefit from. So thanks for watching. Hit subscribe and share with your friends. I'll see you in a couple days.